What do you think the most expensive thing is for someone?
Welcome to Sales Secrets with Brandon Bornancin. On the daily, Brandon shares new secrets to help maximize sales and make more money today. Never miss a show by hitting the subscribe button now.
What do you think the most expensive thing is for someone? Out of everything that you go through in life, what is the most expensive thing in life that you spend on? And you've interviewed hundreds and almost 1,000 people on their worst investment ever, right? But throughout your lifetime, what do you think people spend their their most money on?
I'm guessing it would be first maybe their house, maybe their car, something like that.
Yep, that's a good one.
There is also their wife.
Yeah,
particularly if they get divorced.
That's a very expensive. It's a very large expense, right? Anything else coming to mind? Cars, houses, partners, makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, being a financial guy, I looked at the net present value of kids, and that's a pretty expensive thing.
How expensive are kids, by the way?
Oh,
like if you had to break it down.
They're very expensive. Unfortunately, the thing is that you pay the money out into the future. So hopefully you can earn into the expense that you're going to have. But I don't have my number on me, but they can be very expensive, particularly when they end up not having a job at the end of it.
I totally get it. So the second most expensive thing, and by the way, these are great answers. Everyone highlights these, right? And I've done this in front of audiences, 5, 10, 50, 100,000 people. The second most expensive thing in your life right now that virtually no one talks about, everyone forgets, is taxes.
Yes.
Taxes are your second most greatest expense in the world. Right when the money comes in, you automatically lose 35, 40, 45, 50%. It's gone. The government and the banks don't even trust you. They won't even let you hold on to it. They will literally, you get paid. Before you get paid, they take it out because they can't trust that you'll budget and that you'll pay it. You name it. Taxes is your second greatest expense and investment in the world.
This show is sponsored by seamless.ai, the world's best sales leads. Get direct dials, emails, and cell phones for anyone in seconds. Request an invite to join for free at seamless.ai. That's seamless.ai.
Hello, fellow risk takers, and welcome to my worst investment ever. Stories of loss to keep you winning. In our community, we know that to win in investing, you must take risk, but to win big, you've got to reduce it. And I bet you're exposed to investment risk right now. To reduce it, go to myworstinvestmentever.com and download the risk reduction checklist I've made specifically for you, my podcast listeners, based on the lessons I've learned from all of my guests. Fellow risk takers, this is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz from Stotz Academy, and I'm here with featured guest, Brandon Bornancin. Brandon, are you ready to rock?
I'm ready to rock.
I felt that from the moment you got on.
Let's rock and roll, baby.
Let's do it.
Always, all ways.
So let me introduce you to the audience. Brandon is a serial entrepreneur. He's currently the founder and CEO of one of the fastest growing SaaS companies in the US, seamless.ai. He's a motivational speaker and 18-time sales author obsessed with helping sales professionals maximize their success. At seamless.ai, he has helped hundreds of thousands and counting companies flood their calendars and generate millions in sales using artificial intelligence to find anyone's emails and phone numbers. Well, Brandon, take a minute and fill in further tidbits about your life.
Yeah, thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. The show's awesome, and I'm grateful to be here to share my worst investment ever. Thanks, audience, for tuning in. Background, dude, grew up poor, family was broke, hated being poor, hated being broke, hated being made fun of, hated, being underestimated, underexpected, not as smart as the other people, not as fast as the other people, not as rich as the other people, you name it, right? And just as I was growing up, use that fire to do whatever it takes to launch my own company when I was 18 that did $12 million in sales, launched my second company at 22 that lost $4 million in sales and took me bankrupt and $100,000 in debt. Throughout those two journeys, I learned that the sales list is the number one thing to your success. And then I ended up going and selling for IBM and Google, where I did $100 million in sales because of my lists and using artificial intelligence, a platform that I developed, and then realized, hey, by becoming a millionaire and driving so much revenue, if I could do it, anyone could do it. And went full-time on my third company right now with my team called seamless.ai. And yeah, we help about 250,000 salespeople, marketers, and entrepreneurs connect opportunity and positively impact billions. It's awesome.
It's amazing. And maybe we should have more attempts at making kids outcasts and frustrated in life. Think about it. That's a huge part of your story, is kind of overcoming that. Some people's story is, I did everything right. Everything worked. But here, what I hear from you is that, in fact, I had all these challenges. What is it inside of you that made you overcome those challenges? Whereas there's other people in this world that, are facing similar types of challenges, and they're frustrated by them.
Yeah, I think I just learned that by doing whatever it takes, like this is my most recent book. I wrote it in 22 days when the governor shut down the state of Ohio, where we're headquartered in the States. And right when he shut it down, I wrote this book, Whatever It Takes, to teach everyone that the pandemic and COVID is going to be an absolute nightmare, and it's going to last way longer. It's going to be way more difficult, and you have to develop the habits to maximize your success in business, relationships, life, sales, you name it. And I just learned that at a very young age, that you can't, there are all these different habits, like not listening to people's limiting beliefs. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Go all out. Expansion in all ways, always. Like, all of these different habits. There's over 150 habits in that book I've learned over the years that have helped me optimize, and become a 9-figure entrepreneur. And I'm trying to just take a company to IPO and become a billionaire, and use the money from becoming a billionaire to make a $1 trillion impact on the world. That's
amazing. Well, I guess, minds from Ohio think alike, because I grew up in Ohio, and basically awesome. when the pandemic hit, and here in Thailand, it's a little bit different. Now the pandemic's in full force. We've all seen the impact. We had 95 deaths out of 70 million people.
Wow.
So it has had hardly an impact here. But the point that I felt is that the harder that they hit, the harder that they shut down, the harder I'm going to work. And I went out and did something different, where I said, I'm not going to hire anybody right now, but I know that a lot of young people who are coming out of university aren't going to get jobs either. So I decided maybe we could do a barter. And since that time, in the last 12 months, I've had 100 interns work with me. I've trained them as every way I can, but they've helped me write my courses and write my products and expand my business. So that was my best year ever. It's nothing compared to what you're at, but
that's still amazing.
It's the point innovative.
That's incredible. I got to experience that. Like the end of my first company and the start of my second company was in the financial mortgage crisis in the United States, and it was an absolute nightmare. Family was going bankrupt. No one was buying new products and services. And I was selling this very high ticket. I thought in mobile text message marketing was going to be the future. And all these B2B advertisers would want to buy this $100,000 to $1 million software. And I was wrong. It was very difficult to sell. And I couldn't sell it because I didn't have the list. Now, luckily, that pain and that failure led me to build a platform that helps you automate list building and find everyone's emails and cell phones. And now it's, we're on path to IPO. So I can't complain. That's another habit, right? Whatever it takes. Another habit is, don't look at the things that happen to you as bad things. And woe is me, and playing the victim game. That's another habit. Like all of these things, like you got to look at anything that you experience in life, from me losing my mom to Alzheimer's when I was 21, to Alzheimer's almost devastating my family, then going into my family going into bankruptcy because of Alzheimer's and because of the financial crisis, because we had all this real estate, like just a shit show of things. Me losing $4 million after I made $12 million and then going bankrupt. Like, you just look at these things and you're like, okay, what is the silver lining? What can I learn from this opportunity? How can I make myself the best that I could be from everything that I went through? And that's a big learning.
Yeah. Well, we need that inspiration in these times. I have one more question that I want to ask before I get into the question of the podcast. And that is, when I studied in university, I thought that sales and marketing, it was just kind of fluff stuff. I mean, anybody knows how to do this stuff. And therefore, I studied finance because I thought it's really something, it's hard stuff, and all that. And then when I went to work, I built a successful career as a financial analyst in Citibank and other banks here in Thailand. And what I didn't understand at that time was how important the whole sales process was, because I just wasn't that aware of it. I mean, I knew what was going on and I was good at optimizing it, but I didn't really understand the struggles that the salespeople went through until I became a head of research at that time. And then I had to work with the salespeople. And I always say that the salespeople are like soldiers on the front line. Research is providing them the ammunition. They have their guns. We don't provide them the ammunition. They got nothing to fire. And when they're not firing, they're getting fired at. And that's why they come back and they're pissed off at us. So I started to understand it. Then I started my own business and I realized, my God, I've got to do sales and create my products and run my business. And it became a bit overwhelming. I know a lot of my podcast listeners are financial types. And I just thought maybe you could give us a few tips about, what we should do to bring our sales to another level. And I'm talking about myself as well as, other listeners on the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I think that no matter what you go through, you could, if you've got the right attitude, the right mindset, the positivity, the coachability, the hard work, the whatever it takes, you could accomplish anything. And that's the most critical thing in the world. Before we'll get into the worst investment advice ever, but these are critical strategies and habits. Like knowing the list will help you become a millionaire, billionaire, you name it. Like that's the most critical thing. And then what are the habits to sell to that list or market to that list or build that list and connect with that list and connect to opportunity, like all of these things. And then whatever challenge you run into, you just, no matter what, stay tenacious, do whatever it takes to be successful.
Great. All right. Well, now it's time to share your worst investment ever. And since no one ever goes into their worst investment thinking it will be, tell us a bit about the circumstances leading up to it, and then tell us your story.
Okay. So worst investment ever. No one's ever done this on this show before, by the way. Are you ready for this?
Let's rock.
Are you ready? I want to know if the audience, are you guys ready to rock? Andrew, are you with me? Are you ready?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
Yes?
Absolutely.
All right, awesome. So, Andrew, what do you think the most expensive thing is for someone? Out of everything that you go through in life, what is the most expensive thing in life that you spend on? And you've interviewed hundreds and almost 1,000 people on their worst investment ever, right? But throughout your lifetime, what do you think people spend their most money on?
I'm guessing it would be first maybe their house, maybe their car, something like that.
Yep, that's a good one.
There is also their wife.
Yeah,
particularly if they get divorced.
That's a very expensive. It's a very large expense, right? Anything else come to mind? Cars, houses, partners, makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, being a financial guy, I looked at the net present value of kids, and that's a pretty expensive thing.
How expensive are kids, by the way?
Oh,
like if you had to break it down.
They're very expensive. Unfortunately, the thing is that you pay the money out into the future. So hopefully you can earn into the expense that you're going to have. But I don't have my number on me, but they can be very expensive, particularly when they end up not having a job at the end of it.
I totally get it. So the second most expensive thing, and by the way, these are great answers. Everyone highlights these, right? And I've done this in front of audiences, 5, 10, 50, 100,000 people. The second most expensive thing in your life right now that virtually no one talks about, everyone forgets, is taxes.
Yes.
Taxes are your second most greatest expense in the world. Right when the money comes in, you automatically lose 35, 40, 45, 50%. It's gone. The government and the banks don't even trust you. They won't even let you hold on to it. They will literally, you get paid. Before you get paid, they take it out because they can't trust that you'll budget and that you'll pay it. You name it. Taxes is your second greatest expense and investment in the world. What do you think the first is?
Man, you really got me, because I should have known that. At all of my finance work, I know how painful taxes, but
because we all forget, like every paycheck, every month, every year. I forget, we all forget, like, damn, it's almost like, okay, that's automatically gone. But 40%, on average, year over year, you're talking, if you make 100 grand, that's 40 grand out of the door. To multiply that by 10 years, shit,
it's even worse. It's even worse in my case, because I don't get any of the main benefits of living in the U.S., but I still have to pay that same tax rate.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough. So the worst investment decision, right? Like, why is Brandon talking about the second greatest expense in your life? The greatest expense, the worst investment ever that you can make is not knowing how to make $1 million in sales, in revenue, in income every year. If taxes is number one, the worst investment decision that I ever made was not learning, buying the technology, the training to generate $1 million a year when I was 18, 15, 14, 13. The sooner I learned how to do that, the richer I would have been. Because in that million, you can multiply it.
Yep.
The million million over time. If you're getting a market rate of 7 to 12%, that will double in 7 to 10 years, depending on the return rate.
Yep.
Then it can double again and double again and double again. And it gets smaller. You don't need 10 years. Then you need 8 years. And then you need 6 years. And then you need 4 years. Learning and mastering how to generate $1 million in sales, in income, in commissions and not knowing how to do that is the worst investment decision I've ever made. And it all comes down to, okay, well then to do that, I have to do whatever it takes to learn how to make $1 million in sales a year. First step of that, first secret to making $1 million and avoiding the worst investment mistake ever in your history of life, you got to build the list. If you want a job, if you want a sale, if you want a customer, if you want to build a business, if you want an investor, if you want to do anything in this life, if you want news, if you want press, if you want to hire people, anything in this life that you want to do right now, the only way that you could do it is by building the list and having every single person and every single company in the world that you need to sell to or market to or advertise to. That's step one. Step two, and that's really all about whatever it takes to build the list using technologies like my platform, seamless.ai. Boom, I've got my list. Maybe I started a new finance company. So I'm going to go after all the high net worth, mid net worth people, and I'm going to sell them my financial consulting practice like you would do.
Yep.
Okay, well, to start that, got to find all the people that are doing well, middle class, upper class, boom, get their email, cell phones, and then I'm going to market and advertise to them. Second secret to avoiding the worst mistake ever, investment mistake of not knowing how to make $1 million is getting the training and the expertise. Once you have the list, you have to know how to sell to the list. And that's where my training like Sales Secrets comes into play, where I've interviewed 250 of the world's best sales experts and marketers and entrepreneurs. This is over 650 pages is the first edition. This Sales Secrets book, the second edition is going to be over 1,000 pages. So I just learned by building technology that built the list, and then by reading hundreds and hundreds of books on sales, marketing, entrepreneurship, investing, okay, I figured out all the secrets to make $1 million a year. I need to build the list. I need to sell the list. To sell the list, I need to know how to sell, how to market, how to advertise. So biggest mistake ever, not knowing how to make $1 million a year in sales. And the people that do know how to do that, we actually ship them a $1,000 award. It's a President's Club award, the 7-figure club award. So when you make over 7 figures in sales using our software, using our training, boom, we ship you this $1,000 massive award. And then we try to get you from the 7-figure club to the 8-figure club to the 9-figure club. Worst investment mistake ever. Not knowing how to make $1 million every year.
And so tell me, how did you come to this? I mean, there's sometimes people would listen to this and say, oh, that's way beyond my capacity. Or some people say, oh, you're just, it's hype. I don't know if I can do that, or I don't have the product, or I don't have the service, or I don't have this, that. I'm just curious, like
that's
how.
Bullshit. That means you're not doing the habits of whatever it takes. Like,
so you
that
mean
means
anybody,
you don't embody the hundreds of habits to do anyone,
right?
Anyone,
and that's what I would. Let's say
millionaires and billionaires, the self-made guys. They've never, like all self-made entrepreneurs like me, like the millionaires and billionaires that I've studied. None of them knew anything of how to do anything. But guess what you do? You like, okay, here's my goal. I will do whatever it takes to accomplish that goal. Anything I got to learn, buy, study, execute, strategize on, partner with, whatever I have to do, I will do whatever it takes to make that shit happen. No excuses. There's no victim game here. There's no excuses for your success or lack thereof success. I'm just a kid that grew up in the ghetto of Cleveland, Ohio, that lived as a kid on food stamps, garage sales, and canned foods. If I could do it, and I was always told ADD, needs to be on a bunch of pills as a kid, not going to make it, not going to do well in school. And then I write 18 books. I sell over $100 million in sales, build 2 multiple 8-figure companies, and building a company to IPO. If I could do it, you could do it. There is nothing better or more important. I am no greater, smarter, better, faster than you or anyone tuning into the show. The only difference with me is like, I'll just work hard and do whatever it takes, regardless of any bullshit excuses that I let stand in my way as to why I cannot achieve something. I don't let any excuses get in the way of anything.
And what's interesting is that you're also not saying it's going to be easy. I mean, you've had your ups and downs.
It's terribly hard, by the way. Like, if you want to make 5 figures, everyone does that. If you want to make 6 figures, okay, less people make 6 figures than 5 figures. Okay, well, if you want to be a millionaire, okay, well, that's going to require more work, more effort, more energy, more tenacity than making 5 or 6 figures. If you want to join the 8-figure club, it's going to take more work than the 5, 6, 7-figure club. You want to join the 9-figure, $100 million club, it's going to take more hard work and doing whatever it takes than the 5, 6, 7, 8-figure club. So it's hard. Like, but life is hard. Making $1 million is hard. Not making $1 million is hard. Choose your hard, right? Like, everything in life is hard. Like, losing weight and being fit is hard. Not losing weight, not working out is hard. Choose your hard. Selling is hard. Not selling is hard. Choose your hard.
That's awesome. One of the things that when I talk to people that set up businesses and all that, I talk about what I call my $3 million rule. And I say that if you're going to start a company, you have got to rush to $3 million in revenue, because that's about the minimum amount it takes to get a proper management team in place, to pay for the software that you need, to have the operating systems that you can really generate. And so, just your point is get to $1 million. And then the other point is build that business, as fast as possible, because I was looking at a study a long time ago about finance, and they were looking at all kinds of different financial measures to say, what was the best predictor of a company's future success? And many financial people like myself said, profit margin, return on equity. The key to longevity is sales growth. And that was the measure that they came up with. And I think that, what I've learned is 2 things. Yeah, that sales growth is proof that you've got a product that works and people want it and you keep developing it, number one. But number two, you're going to make a million mistakes throughout your whole career. And having growth allows you to absorb those mistakes without getting wiped out. But with no growth and tiny profit margins, little mistakes knock you out. So, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, I think if you want to make $100,000, you're going to make 100,000 mistakes. You want to make $1 million in sales, income, potential, commissions, whatever, you're going to make 1 million mistakes. And you just have to forecast it correctly. Like, you got to be in the right mindset. Shit's going to go bad. And if you think that it will be way worse, way harder, way more difficult than it really is, you never get disappointed. The reason why salespeople, marketers, entrepreneurs, anyone in life quits anything is, number one, they didn't do whatever it takes. By the way, pick up this book on Amazon right now, Whatever It Takes, Brandon Bornancin. And two, they overestimated how easy it would be to accomplish the goal. I assume everything is going to be hard as hell, way harder, way more difficult, way more capital intensive, way more time consuming than I ever imagined. So however long it takes, 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, 1 decade, I'm never disappointed. And you got to play that like long game. Yep. So if you're like, if you over forecast, it will take forever. I could be working on this thing for 25 years and you do it in a month, a year, a decade, whatever, you win. You never lose. Like, there's no losing. And then when you fail, you always view it as an opportunity for improvement. I fail every day. I never look at it as a failure. I just look at it, okay, there's a new data point that I can use to do something bigger, better, smarter, faster. So now that data point will help me propel to where I'm trying to go. Gap. Point A, this is where I'm at today. This is where you're at today, listeners. On the left, you've got point A. On the right, you've got your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, the life you want, the family you want, the vacations you want, the houses you want, the cars you want, the kids you want, everything in the life that you want is at point B. You're at point A. The best way to fill that gap, find the fastest way to make $1 million a year. And then fastest way to do that, build a list, sell a list, done.
Well, maybe I'll just summarize what I take away from, the first thing I take away from your story and your life is inspiration. So my first thing is, I want to appreciate the fact that you inspired me. In fact, I just want to get up and get going. And it's 5:30 in the morning. So thank you, number one, for the inspiration. I know
I appreciate you jumping on 5:30 in the morning with me.
Yeah. And I know for the listeners, it's an easy time to get down. It's an easy time to get frustrated, but get off your ass, get going. This is your time. Don't let, anything hold you back. And the second thing I take from what you said is that let's not overcomplicate it. First, build a list. Second, get training so you know what you're doing. And then third, sell to that list and get to 1 million. Pretty simple stuff.
Super simple. Like, some of my best piece of advice to everyone at my company, to anyone that I work with, the hundreds of thousands of salespeople, marketers, entrepreneurs I coach every day at mass scale globally, is imperfect action will always be greater than perfect inaction. Don't do this paralysis by analysis bullshit. Build the list, learn how to sell the list, sell the list. Get to $1 million a year. Simple. Just don't overcomplicate it. You don't need 90 tools, 90 strategies, 90 scripts, 90 this, 90 that. Build the list using seamless.ai or LinkedIn. Learn how to get training, what sales secrets or 7-figure social selling or any of my books or there's a lot of experts out there that I've learned from and interviewed in this book. Yep. And in our course on SalesFlix. And then once you learn that quickly, just execute. While you're studying, execute. Imperfect action is always better than perfect inaction. All day, every day. Execute, execute, execute. Massive amounts of activity.
I think it was George Patton that said, actually, imperfect plan violently executed is better than a perfect plan not executed or executed next week. I like the violently executed. That's how you wrote the book, Whatever It Takes.
Yeah, violently executed. That's super aggressive and fits well.
All right. So let me ask you now, the question is, based upon what you've learned from your own life and what you continue to learn, there's listeners out there, they're inspired. They want to move to the next step. What one action would you recommend that they take to get themselves to the next step?
100 leads a day. So I teach this course called 21 Hard Sales Challenge. It's a free course. You can get it at seamless.ai. Just join seamless.ai for free. You'll be able to get cell phones and emails to everyone in the world. But in that course, the first step is build a list of 100 people that you need to connect with, sell to, market to, advertise to, learn from, get mentored by, you name it. 100 leads a day. It's like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. 100 leads a day can fundamentally change your life forever. And I would just, whether it, dedicate yourself to 100 leads a day, 10 leads a day, 50 leads a day, 1 lead a day, whatever it is, just right away. I recommend 100. It's a big number. It's a great number. And with our software, you can do it in 5 seconds. You build a list of 100 people, emails, and cell phones. So build your list every day and then work on connecting, work on building relationships, work on marketing, advertising, selling. That's where opportunities are created. Whether you need a job, build a list of the HR people at the companies that you want to work with. If you need funding, build a list of the venture capitalists. I've raised nearly $100 million. I've raised over $100 million in funding. Oh, no one, a loser out of Cleveland, Ohio, in the ghetto, loser family, loser kid, not smart, knew nothing. I raised $100 million.
Here's $100 million bucks.
$100 million. I built multiple 8-figure companies. Guys, there's nothing special about me. And I want to be crystal fucking clear with that. I'm not special. You can do anything that I've done 10 times, 5 times, 8 times, 100 times bigger, better, faster, smarter than I have, right? Just build the list, market, advertise, sell, connect with, network with that list. It's dead simple.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you were from Cleveland, Ohio, you would know Alex Bevan, and he would say, Brandon's just a skinny little boy from Cleveland, Ohio, come to chase your women and drink your beer. An old Ohio classic. Well, last question. What's your number one goal for the next 12 months?
IPO. Positively impact a billion people in IPO. I want to transform the lives of my employees. I want to transform the lives of the hundreds of thousands of users and companies that rely on Seamless. Best way for me to do that is to IPO and leverage the capital to continue maximizing the success of our users, customers, investors, and employees. And that's the only goal. There is no plan B. It's another secret. Don't have a plan B. If you have a plan B, you gave up on plan A.
Burn the
There's no
ships.
such thing as a plan B.
Burn the ships. No plan B.
Everyone always asks me, you're so successful with Seamless. What would you do next? I look at them. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? What's next? There is no next. This is it. We're all in. We'll IPO, and then we will build the number one fastest growing company in the world that helps the world connect opportunity, period.
Yep. Well, there you have it.
Ending.
Ladies and gentlemen, now you know the man behind the company that will be IPOing within 12 months. And you know exactly the way he thinks. And, what an opportunity. So, listeners, there you have it. Another story of loss to keep you winning. My number one goal for the next 12 months is to help my listeners reduce risk in their life. So go to myworstinvestmentever.com right now and download the risk reduction checklist. See how you measure up. Now, Brandon, as we conclude, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. And on behalf of A Stotz Academy, I hereby award you alumni status for turning your worst investment ever into your best teaching moment. Do you have any parting words for the audience?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to join this amazing group of alumni here in the course, in the academy. And guys, I can't wait for all of you tuning in to just make this next year your biggest and best yet. Do whatever it takes, build the list, make it happen. You've got this. And everyone tuning in would love to give you a free license. Just go to seamless.ai, use the referral code, my worst investment ever. We'll make sure you get hooked up. My worst investment ever. So when you sign up for free, Type in my worst investment ever, and Seamless will help you find emails and cell phones and direct dials to anyone in the world that you need to connect with. So that's it. My free gift to you.
We appreciate it very much. And listeners, I'll see you there at seamless.ai. I will be there for sure. And that's a wrap on another great story to help us create, grow, and protect our wealth. Fellow risk takers, this is your worst podcast host, Andrew Stotz, saying, I'll see you on the upside.
Thank you for listening to Sales Secrets with Brandon Bornancin. If you enjoyed the show, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss an episode that drops on the daily. Your success is our success.